There we go. Welcome everyone to the very first Celtic Whisky Fest tasting. The idea behind these nights are to get you through the long, cold November evenings, and not so cold at the moment, but I'm hoping you'll enjoy them as a bit of a replacement for Whisky Live, which obviously isn't happening this year. So I hope you enjoyed tonight. With me is Brian Hogan, and he is International Commercial Manager. Is that right, Brian?
That's it.
Yeah, of Walsh Whisky, and it's been quite an amazing week for Walsh Whisky. Some of the news you might know, which is they have been bought by sorry, I forget the name, Brian's. What's it?
Amber Beverage.
Amber Beverage Group.
Amber Bev.
Yeah, and also a very impressive sweep at the Irish Whisky Awards, which were last week, and I think it was an unprecedented 8 awards for all the sort of whiskies right across the board. So, and of course, the one tonight won Best Limited Edition Blend, and yeah, plenty of other awards for them. So, Brian, can you take it away and fill us in on what you do at Walsh and what's happening tonight?
Yeah, no problem, Al. So obviously, as I'm sure you've all noticed, I'm not Bernard, considerably younger. We'll leave it up to yourselves to decide who's better looking. But yeah, Bernard is actually in the US this week. Unfortunately, as happens in these things, something came up. Obviously, we've had quite an interesting week last week, so Bernard asked me would I step in and try and fill his shoes. So, so as Alice mentioned, I am commercial manager for Walsh Whisky, and I look after about 20 markets, one of which is Canada. And obviously that's the reason we're here this evening, is to try one of the collaborations that we've, I suppose we've done with specifically with Ontario, within Ontario with Enniskillen. So Canada for us is one of our best markets, best performing markets. It's a market which has really kind of I think accepted or embraced Writer's Tears as a brand. It's very popular over there, and yeah, this was something we've wanted to do for a while. I know Bernard, even going back further, has always had a soft spot for Canada. He loves the people, he loves the market. It's, I think in the back of his mind, he's always harbored an ambition of doing something along this line. But yeah, probably about 2 years ago, we got really serious about looking to do some sort of collaboration. Being honest about it, I wasn't too familiar with Icewine as a liquid prior to this. I'm not sure if, I'm sure that some of you were in a similar boat to myself. And when Bernard mentioned it about this collaboration, I had to do a little bit of research to kind of find out what is Icewine and yeah, the origins of it. But yeah, I mean, I suppose any of you that would know Bernard personally know he has a particular taste profile, which is sweet, and this is right up his alley. He has a sweet tooth. So look, I suppose before I go any further, maybe, I'm sure you have all the various whiskies poured at this stage and just letting them breathe. But maybe we'll just start with the first one, which you're probably all familiar with, which is Writer's Tears Copperpot. Just to get the ball rolling. Again, I have no doubt this is one I'm sure you've sampled at some stage before, if it's not your regular tipple. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what to say about it. It's bottled at 40% ABV. It's matured in bourbon casks, and you're getting that, that green apple and with a hint of vanilla, which always comes through. I think the vanilla I always pick up the vanilla on the nose. It's a nice subtle, I suppose, note of vanilla coming through with the green apple, which you'll always, I suppose, pick up with that kind of pot still influence. But and again, as we're going to go through this, and again, this is very subjective, because I suppose the liquids we're going to taste tonight, 2 of them are not marketed. They're what we're doing tonight is exactly what Bernard would have done, 12 months ago, 15 months ago. So fire in your comments and your thoughts, because this is a real example of what we actually go through in the whole process. This is the base liquid, copper pot, and then as we move through it, this is what Bernard does. I won't say every day, but certainly I'd say maybe every week or every 2 weeks, he gets samples from the different casks and he's tasting them and he's deciding, does it need a little bit longer? But yeah, so this is copper pot.
And the maturation for this, Brian, sort of before, obviously, the Icewine cask is predominantly bourbon cask, is it?
This is bourbon cask. Yeah. It's all bourbon casks, yeah. And it's in there between 6 and 8 years. So yeah. So again, I suppose on the I'm conscious you're all muted, so it's audience participation is a little bit more difficult, but I mean, you're going to get I suppose, because it's unique in that it's that kind of cuvee, if you like, or blend of your single pot still and your single malt. The thing that's going to strike you is that spice from the single pot still. It's the gentle kind of ginger spice on the side of the palate or inside of the tongue. It's not overpowering, but it's definite. It's a definite. It's a single pot still influence coming through. But after that kind of dissipates, it's really that kind of maltiness, that kind of I would maybe kind of orchard fruit, kind of that fruity notes coming through on the back of the palate is the way I describe it initially. But then it's that dark chocolate. It's that kind of it coats your tongue. It's a little bit, it's oily, which again, I would think it's what you should expect from once you move into that premium category. It coats the tongue. It's a nice kind of oily texture, and then it gives you that kind of that chocolatey aftertaste that lingers at the back of the palate. So again, a nice kind of good kind of entry level premium whiskey, if you like. A copper pot. I think it always delivers. Well, I suppose I'm biased, obviously. It's your opinion, maybe more so than matters, but I feel copper pots are really good entry to the premium exit. It always delivers, I feel.
Yeah. Don't be shy on joining in the text chat, everyone. I think there's a really nice sort of confected note on the nose, and that's not a bad thing. It's sort of boiled sweets and sort of candied fruits and that kind of thing.
Candied fruits actually is something that has cropped up before. It's always interesting, you do some of these. Again, I don't do a huge amount of, but I've done enough of them. Yeah, and that's a word, that's a phrase that has come up from time to time. You do get some wild and wonderful ones, but yeah.
Jude says a hint of almond, which I do get that.
Hint of almond.
Kind of goes with the sort of chocolatey notes as well.
Yeah. The time to kind of go beyond that to pick up some of the other notes, but yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, I lost you there, Brian. I don't know if everyone else heard that, but I sort of dropped out for a minute.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Did I drop out or did you drop out?
No, I think it was me. So hopefully everyone else heard you.
Okay. So so that's I mean, that's the base liquid. That's copper pot. That's what everything is based on from here on in. So yeah, to give you maybe a little bit of a background on Icewine. And again, I'm not too familiar. I'm not sure how much people are familiar with Icewine, but it's a type of liquid which originated in Germany in the 1700s. I think its origins actually were well, sure, look, like a lot of liquids, was by accident. There was a freeze, a particularly harsh early cold winter snap, and which freeze the grapes, and they brought them in and tried to save them. And I think they stumbled across this concept of ice wine in about 1790s. But so it originated in Germany, but it came to Canada in the 1970s. So a couple of hundred years later, and it was brought to Canada an Austrian, or at least the founder of the most prominent this winery, if you like, which is Enniskillen in Ontario. It was founded by a couple, a husband and wife, and I believe that the husband was Carl Kaiser, with his business partner, who's Don Serraldo, who is a bit of a legend in the ice wine circles in Canada, and he's still involved to a lesser extent. He kind of retired. He's one of these guys. He kind of retired, but then came back out of retirement. And it was like big news. He's back, and he's quite a charismatic character. He's a Italian by origin, but Don really was the kind of point of contact initially for Bernard. Don was a driving force commercially behind Enniskillen Winery, who is the winery on the Niagara Peninsula, who we partnered with for this. So it was fantastic at the launch event a couple of weeks ago when Bernard was over in Canada. Don was there holding court, if you like. He's a big presence, as I mentioned, in Canada. But yeah, so when Bernard went over, initially, and it was through introductions, as all of these things are, he was put in contact with Don, and he went over in January 2020, I think it was, just double check, on a bit of a reconnaissance mission, I suppose. And he was brought through the whole process of the ice wine. So effectively, what ice wine is, they use different types of grapes. Some use Sauv Blanc, some will use actually Riesling. There's various types of grapes that they'll use. In this case, the Gold Vidal that we've used. What they do is that they grow them on the vine like any normal wine, but rather than harvesting them during, I suppose, the summer months, like a typical wine, they leave them on the vine, and they leave them as they go into the winter months. And what they're looking to do is that the water content in the grapes dissolves as the weather gets colder. The plant absorbs the water to stay alive, so the grapes become, if you like, shriveled, so they lose a significant amount of their water content. And what that does is it concentrates the sugars in the grape, so what you're left with is a very sweet grape. Now, when it comes to harvesting, there's a sweet spot. So again, it's very much dependent on the climate. And one of the reasons that Canada is so well regarded with regards to ice wine is because of its climate. It gets those kind of consistently cold winters. And what they're looking for is temperatures of between -8 and -14 degrees Celsius. So that kind of range, and they can get that anytime between, I suppose, November and February, and maybe into March. So they're waiting, I suppose, until they feel the conditions are perfect. Now, the longer they wait, the more of the grape they're losing, because migrating birds and animals of all shapes and sizes are taking the grapes. And there's a big challenge, I wouldn't say a problem, challenge with migrating birds in particular. So what they do is they tend to have to cover the vines in nets to try and protect the grapes during this period. And the longer they leave it, the more weeks they leave it on the vine, the more they're likely to lose to birds and other animals poaching it. But once they get to I suppose that point where the climate is right, and I have a video, and I can maybe show it to you at some point. Bruce Nicholson, who is the head winemaker in Enniskillen Winery, he says that I think he said it's -8 degrees Celsius. It's a sweet spot. And once you get to that point, it's all systems go. So typically they'll harvest it within 24 hours, starting at nighttime.
And this is sorry to interrupt. This is probably all hand harvesting as well, isn't it?
I thought so. Really? But actually, in the video, and again, I can throw it up. They actually, without doubt, I definitely, up to your point, I'm sure it was hand harvesters, and they had the troops ready to go. But actually, when in the video, you do see some pretty nifty John Deere tractors with apparatus, to the side of them, which are shaking the grapes. So they harvest those grapes and they I suppose they crush them, press them, and because they're frozen, the water is crystallized in the grape, and the water remains frozen because of the temperature. So it actually squeezes out more of the juice. So if you can imagine, when you're pressing those grapes, those water molecules are actually crystallized because it's -8, -10 degrees Celsius. So they're forcing out more of the sugars, more of the sweetness. So what you're left with is a really concentrated, sweet liquid, which is your ice wine. So yes, that's a little bit of the background, if you like, on the ice wine, and it obviously tends to be more expensive as well, as you can imagine, because of the grapes shriveling. The yield from ice wine grape is about 10 to 15% of what you would get if you harvested them for normal wine, for want of a better word. So the yield is much less than what you would expect for normal wine production. So hence, supply is limited, and as well, if you don't get the conditions. So I know from talking to Bernard back, if you remember the El Nino phenomenon, where there was one year where Canada got a kind of a warmer winter than normal, and it completely destroyed the crop. They lost, I think, over 70% of the crop that year. So they're very reliant on Mother Nature, on the conditions.
Do you know which one we're tasting next after the cup of?
So the next one we're tasting is the Writer's Tears, which has been matured in the Gold Vidal ice wine cask for 5 months. I believe it's 59.2% ABV. So this is straight out of the cask.
I think that's the one that's labeled as cask sample. Then would it be?
It could be. Do you have the dates on it? Are the dates written on it? No. Do you have the dates written on it when it was filled?
No, I have. I have one that says cask sample, one that says ice wine, and one that says ice wine finish.
Ice wine. Okay. So you actually have the ice wine?
No, it's not ice wine.
No,
it's definitely whiskey.
Yeah, because I think the plan initially was to have Writer's Tears, I think, a 5 months maturation, and then the finished product, and also the Enniskillen ice wine itself. But we don't have the Enniskillen ice wine. But what we have is we have 2 samples from the cask. So you've tasted the copper pot. The next sample is a cask sample from 5 months. So the liquid has been in the cask for 5 months. So I'm not sure how your bottles are labeled. So the next sample then should be the finished product, which is available. Okay.
I've been told it's a cask sample, so that's the one next. The one that says cask sample. So
cask sample.
Everyone. Yeah. So we're going to pour some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Al, do you have 3 in front of you or 4?
Yeah, I've got 3 left. Yeah.
3 left. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to. So you should have. I suppose you should have 2 cask samples. I'm not sure how they labeled them, differentiated them, but you should have 2 cask samples.
I'd say the next one must be the one that said Enniskillen ice wine, but it's not ice wine. And then obviously the last one is the ice wine finish.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. So this is cask strength, obviously. So
yeah, exactly. So
what I like to do normally is try it without water, but obviously add some water. So I hope everyone's got some water handy, but it might be a good time to nip out and get some. Tap water's fine though.
And again, this is where I really appreciate some audience participation. Throw in your comments on the side panel here and we'll see what you're thinking. You're obviously still going to get very much the copper pot.
And you said this is 5 months, is it?
This is 5 months. So yeah. So as I mentioned, Bernard went over in January 2020 and picked out the barrels. The barrels were emptied in March 2020 and shipped to Ireland, and we filled them in May of 2020. Okay, so the sample you're tasting here is a sample that should have been drawn from the cask at cask strength in October 2021. Okay, and so 5 months.
Now, if you're brave, you can taste it. I'm going to have a little sniff and a little taste.
That's warm.
It's quite thick though, isn't it? It's a kind of oily texture to
it. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, it's cask strength. It's going to it's all like definitely soupy.
I'm adding water to it now. I'm not going to taste any more at that strength. So what, it's Bernard who usually tries all these and samples them. Are there any other people on the team who kind of go through them and check on the progress of casks maturing?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Jera, who is on our production side, she would weekly check everything, make sure there's no leakages, there's no issues, that kind of thing. She would be doing the draws, the samples, and from time to time, I suppose to give you an example, the single pot still, which obviously is coming out hopefully this week, is, you know, we would have had a team tasting, if you like, you know, where we would have, you know, 4 of us, 5 of us sat around a table and had tastings at different stages of its maturation and that, and from time to time you would do that, you know. You know, and let me know what you think.
Sorry, I lost you there again, Brian. Can everyone else?
Lost Al.
Sorry, I am back. Sorry
You're
about
back.
that.
No worries.
And, I think it automatically lets everyone back in again. So, so I didn't hear what you said, Brian. Obviously, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's no. You're fine. No, Bernard would obviously drive it, but no, absolutely, he would. At times, he would look for a consensus opinion. So, you know, Friday evening, you might get 1 or 2 mini bottles unlabeled and ask to bring them home and sample them and give your feedback on a Monday morning as to what you think. And is it? You know, something else, a bit more complexity. So that's really what you're looking for, is maintaining the best features of the base while also introducing that kind of added layer of complexity. And as I mentioned, Bernard has his sweet tooth. You know, we've done several, you know, different casks in the rum, Marsala, etc. And sometimes you're trying to pull him back and try and steer him down another path. But yeah, no, in this one, it definitely it's the sweetness comes through. So 5 months, and again, the sense would have been no, it definitely needs longer. But I suppose what you're looking for is just how is it progressing? You know, how, you know, is it? I don't think the expectation would have been that we'll bottle it at 5 months, but I think you're just looking to see how is the liquid evolving, you know, what's starting to come through in terms of the taste notes.
Sorry, everyone. I think
So,
I lost you again there, but I've hopefully solved the problem now. So hopefully it'll be plain sailing from now on. Uh,
so
do let us know what you think of the first cast
yeah, I was just
sample.
explaining the process. Love the legs and the glass is the common super consistency. It's coming through. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. I was just explaining, Al, what you're looking for is to maintain the core characteristics of the base liquid, which is copper pot, but introduce some of the, I suppose, additional complexity of the cask you're maturing it in. You know, so you don't want to lose everything that copper pot's about. So exactly, you should be still getting those vanilla apple notes, but you're getting some, I'd say, fruit, that kind of fruit undertones coming through more so.
Maybe it's a higher strength, but it has a really nice mouthfeel to it. Kind of thicker. Certainly as a sort of cast sample.
Yeah. No, look, I think you're right. I mean, it definitely, like, the higher ABV is definitely going to have that effect. Any cask strength whiskey, it is more viscous. It's definitely, and depending on how much water you've added, I think you're very restrained in your adding of water there with the thing. So I doubt it's down to 40% ABV. You're probably still up around the high 40s, I'd imagine. So you're still going to get that much more oily coating around it. Yeah,
that's the strength I like to drink at. High
40s. Yeah. Well, the next one then will be right up your street then, I think, because that's the finished product, if you like, the 12 months.
We do have the other one as well, though, which is that another cast sample then?
Yeah, so the other cast sample is when you go beyond the 12 months.
Okay.
So what we tried to do is to give you a taste of between at 5 months. So it's not what we felt was the midpoint. So it's not ready. But you can start to see the influence of the Icewine coming through.
Yeah.
That kind of 12 months in the cask where, Bernard would have felt, yep, I think that's right. You can still get the copper pot influence. You still know it's a Writer's Tears whiskey, but that sweetness is really after kind of giving it a little bit of an extra dimension. And then where I think it's 17 months. So,
wow. Yeah.
So that's what the other one is. And it's important to point out that there's nothing wrong with it, and nor is there anything wrong with the 5-month-old. I'm sure there's probably some people here who would say to me, do you know what? I think that 17-month-old maturation is fantastic, or maybe the 5, this is the game. This is the fun part. It's, it's trying to get something that will both speak, I suppose, to Bernard's palate, but also speak to the majority of consumers who are going to try the whiskey. Not everyone is going to have that much of a sweet tooth that they'll enjoy the 17. The liquid sitting in a nice wine cask for 17 months. There for sure will be some. And then maybe there's people who say, 5 months, it doesn't really influence the liquid enough. I'm looking for something more. So you're always trying to get that balance, between staying true to the liquid that is, the base liquid, which is copper pot, but providing enough kind of additional complexity to the liquid to give to give the whiskey enthusiast something different. And that's really.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're tasting a cask finished whiskey, you're asking yourself where is the flavor of the cask that's been finished in. But a good example is when you can get a bit of both worlds, the flavor of the base whiskey and the cask there at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I was just thinking, maybe it's overkill. Maybe you don't want to see it. But as I said, I have a video there, which is the man himself over in Enniskillen. I'm not sure how long it is, but if you're interested, I can throw it on and it'll give you a sense of what he actually did on his journey over there, picking out the casks.
Maybe what we can do is we're pouring ourselves the Icewine finish, the finished
Yeah,
article now, so we
yeah,
can maybe pour that, and if you want, we can watch the video and have a little chat during it on what our thoughts are.
yeah,
Would that be
yeah.
possible? Yeah.
That's that perfect. Whatever you want. Absolutely, whatever you want. There's no
Let
no
me see
problem.
how I do this. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure it out.
It's a little bit cheesy, but it gets the it gives you a sense of kind of the don't tell Bernard. It gives you. You're there.
He's
Sorry.
only in Dublin 7, so I
For
didn't
God's
think
sake.
that the Wi-Fi would be that bad.
I thought he was going to tell me. Well, I won't. For fear of offending someone else, I won't mention other parts of the country. But I definitely didn't think. You want to get onto your local TD?
Yeah, exactly. Jude, just for you asking, we're gonna try the finished product of the Writers' Tears Icewine, so not the other cask sample.
So, Brian, you should be able to. Were you going to show that video or?
Yeah. So there's a bit of sound on it.
Right.
The burner's talking. So what I'll do is you crack open the finished Icewine, have a little taste of it, sit back and enjoy it, and we can have a chat about what you think about it after the video finishes. Okay. And I'll skip. I won't show you all the video. I'll skip forward to the part that's maybe a bit more relevant.
Sure.
Okay, hopefully this works. Okay. Let me know if you can. Excuse the music. Okay. Sorry, now going presentation mode. It looks bloody cold. Come on, Bernard.
Here we go.
Oh, back at the start. Okay. Okay, I'm going to leave it off presentation mode because you definitely don't want to be watching him getting on an airplane and deciding where he's going. So I'll leave it like this and you'll get the idea.
We're not getting any audio. I don't know if you're getting the audio, are you, Brian?
Sorry?
We're not getting any audio.
Okay. We'll leave it then.
One of the restrictions of Zoom, maybe.
Maybe. Okay. It's a pity. Anyway, look, that's obviously Bruce Nicholson. He's one of the, he is the head winery. I'll just show you there's the machinery they use to, and there's the grapes on the vine. You can see the net covering them. So that's the process there. You can see there's the machine. So okay, look, without laboring the point too much, we'll go back to the fun part.
It's good to see the vines like that though. you don't actually picture them with the snow on and everything. So
yeah, it's pretty, you know. Bernard was saying is you could see the gloves and the hat and everything. He was frozen, but yeah, it's interesting. As I said, it's a real kind of you know, once you go, and it's all done and dusted within 24 or 48 hours. So
yeah.
it's an interesting process. They have to kind of it's all about timing, really.
Yeah.
I see a comment there. What ABV is the Icewine finish? So 46% is the Icewine. So again, hopefully you guys have had a chance to try it now.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The nose is very different to even the last whiskey we tried. You could definitely get the influence of sweetness and those kind of fruit notes coming through from the Icewine, that kind of peach and apricot.
Yeah, definitely
coming through in the nose. Peach, definitely.
Maybe just a slight hint of spice as well, like sort of gingery sort of spice there.
Yeah. Well, I'd hope, you know, being obviously that single pot still component, that you would certainly get that kind of that spice. But it's I say if you compare it to copper, but it's different. It's definitely a little bit more. I don't know, sort of mellow the right word, or it's not. You know, that extra 12 months. It's kind of just soothes the spice, if that makes sense. It's there. You're right. You get it, but it's not. It's just a little bit more subtle. But yeah, it's again, for one to repeat myself again, it's sweet and peach. They're the two things I get off it. It's that kind of fruit and obviously that kind of sugar, that kind of sweetness coming through. A little bit like if you've tried it before, we did a Florio Marsala finish a couple of years ago, and again, that was quite sweet as well. So it's similar, I suppose, in that sense. That's a dessert wine as well. So definitely that kind of.
What does everyone else think? Don't be shy. I mean, it sounds obvious, but a sort of grapey note, you know, sort of dried grapes, or even something like grape jam, if you've ever had something like that.
Grape jam?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. No. Interesting.
In the States, I think.
Okay.
Well, they used to make it during Prohibition, certainly. I wasn't around then, though.
Yeah, I really need to expand my palate. You know, it's people, you know, you're coming through with these really kind of exotic taste notes, and I'm like, yeah.
Tastes like whiskey. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no,
I really like it.
It's lovely. Yeah. I know, like, I remember when we tasted it first. I mean, Bernard was giddy. Like, you kind of know with someone's that they're going to work. You know, we've had others where you're hoping it'll work, but I think we knew this would work. You know, we knew the Icewine was a winner. You know, again, probably because of having done similar kind of collaborations, maybe like the Marsala, and that we just felt it. You know, it's like French cognac. We know cognac works well with Irish whiskey, and it's right up Bernard's street, as I mentioned, because of that kind of sweetness. But when it was finished and when we brought it down to 46 and we tasted it, we were just, oh my God, this is so nice. It's like, and again, I'm conscious that I'm saying it, you know, watch me, I'm not hardly going to come on and say, oh yeah, it was terrible. But you know, like, look, it won an award at the Whiskey Awards last week, so clearly someone else thinks it as well, or clearly a lot of people think it as well, which is great. So it kind of makes me feel a bit more comfortable when I'm saying this whiskey is great, because it's not just me saying it. But no, it really is. It
didn't just win an award, though. It did get a very high score as well. So, you know, with each category, you know, people score the whiskies accordingly. But it got a great score. So I think in the judges in the awards, that it certainly hit the right spots for them anyway.
Yeah, which is look, it's fantastic. I mean, it really kind of reinforces, you know, for us, the belief that what we're doing is is resonating with people, you know. And as I mentioned to you, Al, before we came on, unfortunately I couldn't make it. I was caught with work, and I was getting pings every 10 minutes from Claire, like, and Bernard, like, going on. I was like, geez, it's getting a bit embarrassing at this stage, like, lads, you know. It's just an incredible evening, you know.
They could have done with you there, Brian, because they needed more people to send up and accept their awards.
Yeah,
they ran out of people. Go and get them.
It's a problem we gladly take every year, I can tell you. But I suppose the week that was in it as well, you know, it just, you know, Bernard couldn't have finished the week off any better. You know, if he wasn't on a high already, he certainly was coming back down from Powers Court that night.
Yeah. Cormac saying his favourite so far, sweetie and fruitier than the others. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And it'll be interesting, I suppose, when we come on to the next one, if anyone thinks that we moved too early and we should have left it in for 2 years, you know. But
well, is there going to be more Icewine whiskies coming along? I'm sure, you know, you've kind of considered a success. So
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, no, for sure. I think we'll definitely. Well, I know we will do another iteration, because Bernard was over in Canada a couple of weeks ago, and he was with Don Zeraldo, and they've already that in progress. So you can definitely expect, you know, I again, because the availability was extremely limited at this side of the pond, as they say, because the LCBO hoovered up the vast majority of it. You know, it was specific for that market, so they got first crack at it. But yeah, look, and obviously the rest went to yourselves. But the hope is, that we'll definitely be doing it again, and hopefully be a little bit more widely available for people to try, because we've had a lot of interest, not just domestically here in Ireland, but in other markets as well, you know, who are very curious. And as you'll appreciate, there are certain countries where it'll definitely resonate, you know, the likes of Germany and France and these places, you know, by their nature, they're really interested in it and tasting it. So, yeah.
Great. What do you think? We'll try the final edition?
Let's go for it, yeah. So this one is, this is 17 months in the cask, and it's bottled at, so these are the kind of the little, you can see that, you probably can't with my virtual background. So these are the kind of the little sample bottles. They're not little. Sort of 500 ml maybe, or whatever, that we get, that Ger gets with her handwritten labels on them.
The magic all disappearing the bottle.
Yeah, these bloody virtual backgrounds. I had it on so that just in case any of the children decided to burst in the door, they'd disappear behind a bottle of redhead. So Writer's Tears, 70 months, it's bottled. Our cask strength of 57.7%, and then all the boring technical information on it. But so again, to your point, Alan, it might need a little drop of water, but taste it first before you. That's interesting. I'm going to compare it to the other one.
Maybe a bit more intensity of aroma, but very much the kind of same kind of aromas.
Yeah, there's something different. They're very similar, but there's something different. Yeah, I can't put my finger on it from this one now. That is in the 12-month, but not.
Yeah, it's maybe more of a sort of raisined fruit sort of thing. Maybe we're in dried apricot territory rather than fresh apricots this time.
Possibly. Katie's nodding there. I think she thinks you're onto something.
Right.
Is anyone else?
If you're brave enough,
right,
try it without water. I'm going to have a little try.
That it. I'm going to say that's nice.
It's really
that's
good.
Lovely. No, it is sweet, but I'm going to say it's nice. That is lovely.
there's some really nice intensity there.
Yeah.
The flavors is very concentrated. Yeah. Cormac has a new favorite. I'm guessing it's this one. This is, to me, like, having tried the Marsala finish, this is heading in that sort of direction. I think it's more, for me anyway, it's veering away from the sort of fresh fruit side of things towards dried fruits, and then also some of the more earthier, sort of almost like coffee and nuttiness sort of there as well. Okay. Those sort of notes.
There's again, I probably need to add a bit more water, but you made the comment the last time about the spice is not as kind of prominent. I can't remember which one of the ones, but on this one, I would find that even more so. You know, when you're if you remember back when you had copper pot, you really get that single pot still influence, whereas I'm not getting that kind of initial spice quite nearly as much. It's almost like and you mentioned earthiness. It's almost like the malt, the single, you know, the malt is kind of playing more of a part in it, if you like, and that could be.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And there's a certain sort of more rounded sort of character to it than you know, compared to the copper pot.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because this is the first time I've tasted actually, because we so little of it. Just, I don't know, someone was obviously sampling out of it, but that's interesting. That's one now I'll have to come back to, versus the finished one versus the 12 months. As you said at the beginning, I hope everyone left a little bit in the bottle. They can come back to it this evening or tomorrow evening. But yeah, but again, that's the game. That's the part of the job that's Bernard enjoys the most. You know, why wouldn't he? I suppose it's his entitlement. I'm making him sound like it's he's just sitting in the office from 9 to 5 sampling whiskeys. That's absolutely not true. Obviously, he's other terribly difficult things he has to do, like get on a plane to the US and actually this has been recorded. I better be careful.
Yeah.
But it's obviously it's a really important part of the process, you know. And as I said, it's always interesting because again, Katie, you probably you know Claire, you've spoken to her, and Claire would have a different taste profile to Bernard, even though she knows exactly what Bernard likes. So she says, oh, he's going to like this. But it's always interesting seeing that reaction. We've got one or two. We've got 2 people on the marketing team who are sub 25, and their taste profile is very different. You know, and wow. It's always interesting just to not even just tasting a liquid, but what they would like to see, kind of, you know, in terms of that innovation side of it. And yeah, sometimes we have to remind Bernard that maybe they're more in that writer's tears demographic than he is. But but
at the end of the day, he's the businessman as well, though. So
no. Well, what he is, I tell you, what he is quality control. There's nothing, he won't allow anything. I mean, we've had 2 instances where we just haven't released things because he just hasn't passed muster for Bernard. You know, he's just doesn't deliver for him. You know, and it's a really important part of the process is that kind of bringing the liquid along, and as I mentioned at the beginning, not losing what's core to it, but kind of really giving the consumer something to delve into and I suppose experience, you know, something different.
Yeah. So we might have a quick chat at the end here amongst everyone. I see if we can unmute people, and we'll maybe talk about what our favorites were, and if we want to go back and try some of the previous ones, if anyone has samples left, we'll do that. No, sorry, I'm just gonna
and I'd love to get your thoughts in terms of the flavors you're picking up. I mean, maybe I could propose to Bernard how many's on it. This could be our new sample. 30 people will, for future MPDs, we'll just send it out to you guys and do it by consensus.
I know a lot of companies do that. They have big tasting panels. By the way, everyone, you have the chance to unmute yourself. So if you want to say anything, you can just hit that unmute button. But yeah, a lot of bigger companies will have tasting panels, and they'll send them out to people and do all kinds of analytical things going on.
Yeah. Well, haven't gone through the Whiskey Award process last week, or I'm sure the last couple of months, and sending samples out to people and labeling them and decanting them, you know very well the amount of work that's involved in that. So yeah, listen, for specific projects, it's definitely worthwhile. But I don't imagine if Ali turned around to you and said, "Hey, guess what? We're going to do this every week or every couple of weeks," you'd be too happy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have ongoing sort of series of tastings that, but yeah, they're not every day of the week. You know, it's every other week or so. But yeah, please do let us know what your favorite was. I think for me, I actually liked the one with what was it, 17 months?
17 months, yeah.
I think it's fantastic. So whatever you have left of that, you know, that's a good limited edition bottling there.
A drop. It's too just not sweet enough.
Yeah.
I'd be really keen to see that video, Brian. So if you want to share it with me tomorrow, I can email everybody in the group so they can watch it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Sorry, it didn't play. I'm not sure why, but
no worries.
I think it's the way Zoom works. I think it allows you to share a screen but not video.
Okay.
I think I had that problem before. It wasn't until we started doing it that I realized that could be a problem.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the copper pot, back where we started, to try that. Cormac is saying he noticed the cask strength is a very pale color. Why would that be?
Cask strength is a very which one? I suppose they're both cask strengths.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing in the virtual. I'm trying to hold them up to the light to see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Although there's probably not enough finish. I don't know, Cormac, is the answer. I mean, we don't add anything to our whiskey, so I'm not sure why that would be. That would be a question for Ger. Now, looking in the bottle, they look the same, but when I have them in the glass, they do. I know what you're saying. It does look a bit lighter, but yeah.
Could it be they're just taken from different casks and there's a bit of cask variation?
Well, they're definitely taken from different casks, that's for sure, because the 5 months was taken from the one of the casks that we bottled at 12 months, if that makes sense. Yeah. Whereas we still have the cask that the 17-year-olds or 17-month-old is taken from. So they would be different casks, and obviously the copper pot would be different. So possibly, I don't. Possibly that would have an effect, but I'd have to check with Ger on that one. As I said, when I hold the bottles up, they don't appear to be different, but on the glass, there is. Sorry, I don't have any more technical answer than when I hold the bottle up.
Copper pot's a lovely drop.
Do you get when you have copper pot? Obviously, I mentioned at the beginning, you always get a really strong hint of green apples off it, but I don't get that nearly as much, or if even at all, from the cask finishes as you move through the others. You know, with the copper pot, the first thing that hits me is that green apple with a hint of vanilla, as I mentioned. But I still get little notes. I still get notes of vanilla, but I don't get that green apple on the next one, which is the 5 month, which is interesting because there's only 5 months.
Yeah. James is asking, is there some of it still maturing away in the Icewine cask? So that one that was 17 months. That's still in there.
Yeah. I'm not sure why we left that. I think experimenting. I think that was the rationale behind it, is that Bernard decided to hold one of them back just to kind of see, what would happen in terms of the taste profile if you left it for, obviously in this case, it was 17 months when we drew the sample. Yeah.
Mike is just saying he agrees with me, like the 17-month best. Hi, Mike. That might be because of the amount of water added. Difficult to, yeah, good point. Difficult to compare it to a 46% whiskey. Yeah.
That is a good point. And actually, something when you mentioned the oiliness around the tongue when we taste the first cask strength, it was something I thought of, is that probably, to be fair to all of them, if you probably need to compare them all at the same ABV to try and compare the taste profile, because invariably you're tasting cask strength, you're going to draw out more of that flavor if you just add a little drop of water or two, and it's still going to be up in the high 40s. So I think that's a very good point. So next time we'll make a note for next time.
So I'm going to ask you a difficult question now.
Oh no.
Icewine, we've had Marsala, we've had some beer casks and all kinds of wonderful things. Anything else you can tell us about that might be possibilities in the future?
I'm trying to think what's laid down, because anything that's going to come out next year has already been laid down for the last year. There is nothing I could say is we will be doing obviously the ice wine again, that's for sure. We'll be looking to repeat that. Unless Bernard has something put aside, which is very possible, because he likes to keep his cards close to his chest, and this has happened before where he's sprung a cask, now a cask or two, and said, and we're like, where did this come from? But there's nothing that comes to mind at this moment. But in 2021, 22 years time, we might have something quite interesting coming, but I can't say any more than that. But Icewine was something that we've been working on for the last, that was his pet project for the last 14 months. He always has something cooking, and now that this is done, I think, he'll turn his focus to something else. But there is something all right cooking for, but it'll probably be more like 2 years, if not a bit longer. Mike's
just asking about Bernard's fondness with sweetness, and if there's anything with an Irish laser or a spate laser or something like that, those kind of casks.
I think all recommendations are welcomed. We're always kind of, the Writer's Tears brand, as I would see it, is that kind of experimental brand. It should be the brand that's kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit, So obviously, Icewine being a first, and we did the Japanese Mizunara there a few years ago. So there's nothing, as I would see it, off the table. As I've mentioned, we've got 2 young guns in the office who are challenging with something quite quirky at the moment. Whether they'll manage to get that one over the line or not, we'll wait and see. But as with everything with whiskey, to get that over the line or get that agreement on that now probably means you won't see it for at least 16 months. These things, that's how long these things take. By the time you secure casks, get them over, fill it, mature it, when it's long enough, a bottle. Some of our limited editions, they've been 18 months in cask, so you really don't know. So, but what's coming out for 2022, we've already laid down, and it'll be, I don't think there's anything completely off the chart, if you like.
Yeah, James is saying Vinsanto and mentions our Celtic Cask 33 as the first, which I think it was, or we probably the first people to use Vinsanto anyway.
Is that that's the cask that picked up the award? Is it?
No, it's not. No, the one that won the award was the Oloroso cask. 125 litre Oloroso. But yeah, Vinsanto is actually very difficult to work with whiskey. Okay, it can be a bit hit and miss. If anyone's ever done any of our Celtic Cask tastings with me, I usually bring out a sample of a whiskey that turned green, and it doesn't taste any better than it looks either. So that was a Vinsanto cask that didn't work out well.
We've had our own issues with casks where one of them, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the liquid, but unfortunately there was the cask that was matured in what was in it before, and I don't want to say too much because it'll give away, but there was residue or sediment from the previous liquid, which is fine, and obviously that's sitting there for 12 months and you think it's fine, and when you move it to bottle it, it disturbs all that. So when you go to bottle it, it appears like it's cloudy, like there's something in it. Now, to drink, 100% fine, load of flavor, but you can't sell it. Like, you can't put it on shelf with things, with what looks like sediment floating in it, and then you go to the issue of trying to filter it, to try and clear that out, and then obviously you're taking flavor. You're trying to get that balance of you not losing what the flavor of it. And that's just one example. So we feel your pain. We've had a couple of cases like where it's just, you're down to the, you're at the end, you think you're just about to bottle and present this, and then it's like, oh no.
Disaster strikes.
Yeah.
So what please let us know, everyone, what your favorite was. I just tried again the final product, the standard Icewine finish, and I think it's fantastic. I'm kind of veering towards that and the one with the extra aging, but both very nice.
Yeah, as I said, it's the first time I've tasted the one at 17 months, so it's definitely one I'm going to come back to.
We'll have a look out for that one, as must be a forthcoming special limited edition single cask somewhere. If you're looking for a retailer to take it on and do it as an exclusive,
we know someone up in Dublin that'll. Yeah. I'm not sure what the plans were with it are actually, but that well, I don't think you won't go too far wrong with any of them. I think the smelling nosing the 12-month-old again, it's really, comparing it to the copper pot, the nose is completely different. It's really, or not completely different, but quite different.
Yeah. A few votes for the 17-year-old and a few for the standard finished product. Where else is this available? Because I think we're sold out of it now. Is it just available in Canada?
Yep, pretty much. You guys got the exclusivity on it in Ireland, and the rest of it went to the LCBO. So unless if you have relations over there, or if you know someone, get them to post you back a bottle or bring it back with them. But for the moment, that's the only place that it is available. But hopefully at some point next year we will have some more. Because as I said to you, the demand has been huge for it.
Great. Big success anyway.
And it's always nice when you see Canada is one of my markets, as I mentioned, and Ontario has been a really really successful for us, and it's a really good opportunity to kind of drive brand recognition in market. If you can obviously partner with a brand that's established, or a brand that's recognizable, it's their home market, and Enniskillen is synonymous with Icewine, and it's based in Ontario. Actually, little fact is obviously Enniskillen is the way it's spelt. It's INN, but it does have strong links to Enniskillen in Fermanagh. The reason it's spelt IN is it's actually named after the Enniskillen Irish Fusiliers, who, as I understand it, were posted on that part of the border defending it. And that's where the spelling comes from. But there is links, despite the difference in spelling, to Enniskillen and Fermanagh. And I believe actually Don Seraldo, who I've mentioned at the beginning, is a free man of Enniskillen. So I don't know, does that mean he can bring his sheep down to the city centre and let them graze for free or what? But anyway, he's he's a free man of Enniskillen, so there is strong ties there.
Maybe he gets to drink all the wine, maybe.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. I think we might have actually some miniatures of Enniskillen coming into the shop, which has been interesting.
Yeah, you will. I mean, I think the plan was that you would have it for tonight for the tasting. It's just turned out to be a lot more difficult to get them through customs and whatever else we needed done. It just took a lot longer, but you'll have them, absolutely. You guys will have them in the shop. I would say in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
At this stage, it's just unfortunate we didn't have it for tonight.
We messaged from Vitaly there. He's up for the standard one, very nicely balanced. He actually likes all the Righteous Tears and Irishman stuff. So no disappointments for him so far.
Vitaly, we'll bring you back, definitely.
Yeah. But I think what he said is quite true. You know, I can't think of a disappointing whiskey in the range, and I'm not sort of you know, I'm not just saying that. I was waiting for
the accept.
No,
if you don't say it. But
no, let me have a think. No, there's you know, I was just like very impressed every time something new comes out, and it's usually something that I've always said in my head. You know, Mizunara, it was like I always said, you know, more people should be doing that. Marsala, more people should be doing that. And then Icewine, I hadn't even thought of that myself. So that was a bit of a coup. So
thanks very much. I mean, it's great to kind of get that feedback. You know, that we seem to be striking the right note with everyone. You know, it's you know, you're not going to get 100% success rate in anything. You know, so I'm sure if we haven't already, I'm sure we'll probably hit a dud note at some point. But look, part of the fun is trying these things. You know, it's I think one of the key things that Bernard is always trying to get across is innovation in Irish whiskey, is expanding that offering, expanding that remit, because the most frustrating thing for him when he started out, and it's a story he always tells, is that when he went door to door to different pubs and shops selling his whiskey back in 2006, when he the Irishman, it was like, well, I have an Irish whiskey, why would I need another? You know, that the Irish whiskey offering had been dumbed down so much over 30, 40 years that, you know, it was just seen as a very simple, bland offering. And thankfully that's all changed now, you know, with the emergence of all of the other producers in Ireland. Everyone is looking to carve their own niche and is experimenting with across every facet of the production process, you know, to try and come up with a unique or different taste profile. And that's brilliant, you know, because that innovation will drive the category for future years. You know, I'm sure you've had conversations with people who maybe previously said, oh, I don't drink whiskey, you know. It's like, that's such a blanket statement. So because, you know, I think we understand even a little bit about it, then all of a sudden you can really start delving into it, you know, and you know, really appreciate the different flavors.
I would echo what Bernard said, but from you know, someone who was working in the shop right from the start, it was different in the shop, where we were saying to all the producers, like, please come up with something interesting, you know, please do something with different casks and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's come on a long way, definitely. And there's definitely a whiskey for everyone out there, you know.
100%. And I mean, like, we obviously don't need to tell them you guys, you know, but with such a rich history that was forgotten or almost forgotten, you know. And it's interesting, whenever you go international and you're speaking to people, depending on which direction you go, if you go west, you know, if you go to North America, it's, you know, it's pretty well known, you know, people know that there's a legacy there with Irish whiskey. But if you go east and even into mainland Europe, it's not, you know, it's still very much, you know, Scotch dominated, and you know, due to the incredible job that they've done, and which is fantastic. But there is a huge education piece needed around Irish whiskey and what that brings, you know. And I wasn't at a show myself, but we had someone at a show in Italy recently, just a few weeks ago, and there was absolutely no awareness of Irish whiskey. They were like, oh, it's not peated. And we're like, Yeah. And you're literally starting from ground zero. But that's okay. You know, over time that will change and evolve. And I think the biggest thing is when people come to Ireland, it's like, you know, you can't go to Scotland, to a bar in Scotland where you're not hitting the face with 50, 100 different types of Scotch whiskey, you know. And I think the same is, it's getting to that point now where you have huge options and people are much more educated. So when people come to visit Ireland and are asking about whiskey, there's, you know, people are just that bit more kind of familiar or educated on, they're more comfortable speaking about it, you know, and that's great, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has any questions, do pipe in, but we might finish up shortly. I gather the new owners have a good footfall in the sort of Eastern Europe and sort of unexplored territory. So that's a good one for you.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, we're in 50 markets globally, which seems like a lot, or maybe doesn't seem like a lot, but it's certainly enough to keep us busy at the moment. You know, within that 50, I suppose you've probably got 20, which are your core markets, but they're in 168 markets, which is, you know, offers huge potential for us. But as I mentioned to you, there's a huge amount of work to be done, even in the 50 markets we're in, you know, in terms of education and not just us, all of the other Irish whiskey companies, and you know, from the big guys to the small guys, it's really important that we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, that we're all talking the same language, you know, the same message, and that consistency. I think over time, you see what's happened in North America, in the US, in Canada, and the desire and the demand for Irish whiskey. I think we can replicate that going east, but I think it'll be maybe harder enough to crack, but it will happen, and it is happening, you know. But yeah, you know, look, it offers obviously a great opportunity for us to partner with Amber Bev, you know, and their resources for sure.
Yeah, Mike was just asking about the Icewine finish, if it's going to be like a standard release, or is it just going to be a one-off?
It won't. I don't think it'll ever be a standard release. I mean, we'll definitely, as I mentioned, we're definitely going to repeat it. You know, I think obviously that the success of it would warrant that anyway. But we'd already the wheels in motion to repeat it, because we felt it was really good. You know, it was really successful, and we wanted to repeat it. The very fact it's won the awards is only kind of reaffirmed that opinion. But no, it won't form part of our core range. I don't believe, because I don't believe we would be able to secure kind of the casks that we needed.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite Icewine itself is quite a unique product, and it's very small production. So yeah, it would be hard to get all the casks.
Yeah, I suppose maybe a little bit like the Japanese Mizunara. You know, it's difficult to secure those casks, you know, albeit the Japanese is a hell of a lot more expensive and more difficult to work with. But yeah, it's something that we have obviously repeated, but don't think we'll ever get to the point where we'll be able to have a consistent supply of it.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll finish up there. That was an amazing tasting, and it was great to see the evolution of the cask as it goes through the sort of stages of maturation. Thanks to everyone for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the whiskies. If you have a little bit left, cheers to you all. And Brian, thanks for giving up your Monday night for us.
No problem, Alice. A pleasure.
Cheers.
As always. And Katie, I'll send you on that video tomorrow, and you can share it with the guys. Yeah, apologies for the soundtrack. It's not my cup of tea, but anyway, you'll get a good sense of the process anyway, at least in terms of what went into the production of the Icewine.
Yeah, and apologize to everyone for my lack of internet. I'm going to sort that out for the next one. So yeah, sorry about that. And I hopefully see some of the faces at the next one that we do. So cheers for now, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys. Slán.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye.